It's 48 hours until we play the Vikings at home in perhaps the biggest game of the season, the biggest game of Dan Campbell's coaching tenure in Detroit. I know that's something we're going to say every week as long as the Lions keep doing one simple thing: winning. Because let's face it, for the last 2 weeks, everything's been a playoff game. And every time we win, we get to play one more playoff game. It's win or go home and sit and watch from the sidelines the rest of the Detroit Lions season, in my opinion. Let's analyze this weekend's matchup and what it all means, and maybe just a little bit more, in today's preview edition of Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. No, I cannot stop with the hand swipes, even though some of you have commented and asked if I could. I am your host, once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for tuning in and making Lions Talk Live a part of your day. It is Thursday, roughly 48 hours until kickoff before the Lions faces the Minnesota Vikings at Ford Field in a pivotal game for both teams. A win here gives the Vikings the division. It also more or less assures them of some form of bye in the postseason. Doesn't mean it will happen, but they're going to be looking pretty good if they get it. The Lions, though, if they pull this off, who would have thunk it just a month and a half ago, roughly? The Lions were sitting at 1-6, left for dead. Should we fire this person, that person, behead some other people? Whatever it may be, the Lions have turned things around in dramatic fashion, and for the first time in the history of NFL, according to Vegas, you have a 10-2 team facing a 5-7 team, and the 5-7 team is favored to win. As I'm sure you all know, it is Prediction Thursday, so here on Lions Talk Live, we want to try to break down and give you somewhere in the video our idea of who's going to win this game and maybe even some supporting reasons why we think they're going to win. But before we get into all that, if you could, and if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. If you could, it takes only 1.5 seconds for you to hit that subscribe button and maybe even leave a thumbs up. A lot of you are great at having some interactive thoughts on videos, comments, whatever it may be in the comment section below. So leave us your score prediction. Tell us why you think they're going to win. And what does this mean, win or lose, for Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell going forward? Now, let's get into today's analysis of Sunday's game. Just a year ago, the Lions found themselves late in the year, left for dead, everybody wondering if Detroit was able to get a win at all in 2021. And then Jared Goff led a furious, with no timeouts remaining, drive in the fourth quarter with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. Goff hit Amon-Ra St. Brown to the end zone to pull off a stunning upset win over the Minnesota Vikings. What a comeback it was. And let's be fair, throughout last year and this year, these two teams have constantly played one-score games decided in closing seconds. After that marvelous win by the Lions on the last second drive, Lions had a lead earlier this year in the third game of the year. Everybody thought, man, the Lions are going to pull off this win and be 2-1 to start the season. But alas, it didn't happen. A very questionable 3,000-mile-long field goal attempt by Lions coach Dan Campbell with a kicker at that point who had a torn groin. Probably not ideal. And then, while all too familiar scenario for Lions fans watching the defense early in the year, busted coverage, somebody left running wide open from Minnesota, scores the game-winning touchdown with little time left. Tell me we're not glad those days are hopefully over. On the other side of the ball, you got the Vikings, and of course you got Kirk Cousins, you got Cook, you got Jefferson, you got a cast of thousands. Obviously, T.J. Hockenson is also among that cast of thousands over in Minnesota land. But being that may, we're all very aware that the Vikings, while they have a phenomenal record and are very stable on both sides of the ball, they just, for whatever reason this year, have not been able to blow anybody out. All their wins are basically one-score games, field goal to a touchdown. You know, why is that? Is it because the offense is good enough to score some points and the defense is good enough to not allow scores on every drive, but not good enough to get stops? There's probably truth in many different theories, but here's my theory watching them. The Vikings lack the ability to go for the jugular. While they've got some great offensive weapons in receivers and now a tight end and running back, they just don't have any game changers. somebody who can just take it to the house every single time. Do they need that to win? No, but it's just my opinion here. They also play a very conservative style of football, and that's why they're able to win, but that's also why they're not able to blow teams out. Now let's get back to the current. Well, two teams who are going in basically the same direction. Since the TJ Hockenson trade, when the Lions were 1-6, sending their superstar tight end to Minnesota for a second-round pick, and let's be honest, the more Vikings win, that second-round pick is more or less a third-round pick. But be as that may, the Lions have seen a dramatic turn upwards. Their offense, which has been great all year, has become steadily more and more great as it's become healthy. Their defense, which was atrocious in the start of the year, perhaps the worst in NFL history, and that's saying something, has actually in the last 5 games been a top 10 defense in most metrics. That's right, over this winning streak, the Lions' defense has been one of the top 10 defenses in all the NFL. It's a good thing you cannot stats erase all that other stuff, but you get my point. We've been pretty good. We've been one of the best in as far as picking off passes, one of the best at defending pass completion percentages, and quarterbacks QBRs. So while that's been great for Detroit, the offense has picked up, and I'm sure we've all noticed Jared Goff's performances have also picked up. The reasons why, let's not get into, but here's what we can say. Detroit on both sides of the ball are trending upwards going into this game, and this game's at Ford Field. Could be a reason why Vegas is picking us. So let's stick with the Minnesota offense versus our D. Detroit is going to face a challenge in that they're going to have to not only stop the run, but the play action pass. James Houston, in my opinion, is going to be a little held in check this game for one simple reason. Because the Vikings like to run so many short hitters in the passing game and the running game, it's going to lead to very few obvious passing downs on third down. The majority of the third downs Minnesota should probably get this game are going to be 3rd and 3 and shorter. So, because that leaves the run so much more in play, it's going to be a hard product for Detroit to get its budding superstar rookie on the field for meaningful action. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I am saying it's my anticipation there will be less opportunity for him. So if you watch the Vikings offense, if you got time, today, tomorrow, Saturday, whatever it may be, go ahead and watch some game footage of them this year. What you'll see is a very consistent offense at running short, intermediary routes. Sorry if I'm killing that. They also have a lot of runs that go inside the tackles. They don't really do anything to mix it up and get it outside. So what you have are very long drives that eat up a lot of clock, chew up defenses physically as they keep attacking them, but their defense isn't great enough to take away the ball the majority of the time, or even some of the time. They just don't get a ton of stops. They get enough to where the offense can continue to grind, but they also give up enough scores with their defense to keep things close. That offense has a lot of pressure on it in Minnesota to keep the ball on the ground and keep the clock churning, because I think the Vikings are very aware right now their defense isn't something they can rely on, and that's why you have a lot of close score games there. Let's analyze the Detroit secondary versus Minnesota's receiving core. In the first matchup, we actually did a phenomenal job with Okudah, and yes, sometimes he had some help from Tracy Walker before he got injured in that game, in bottling up Jefferson. That left Adam Thiel against Amani Oruwariye, and I don't believe I'll probably have to remind any fans watching this, Oruwariye had 59,000 pass interference or holding calls in that game. That's a joke. He did have 5. There was actually a 6th that was declined, but you get my point. Amani Oruwariye was on the way out with the Detroit Lions staff at that point because it was, for whatever matrix, whatever reason, the person we saw in 2021 was disappearing, and what we have this year was emerging. The good thing for Detroit Lions fans is Jerry Jacobs is back on the field. He is healthy, and he is looking like a boss out there. He's physical. He's nasty. He's going to talk jazz about you, me, and your mom, your mom's mom. He's going to do whatever he can to get inside Thiel's head and see if he can get an advantage based on that. It's going to be an intriguing matchup to see what our secondary does against the Minnesota skilled set receivers, and I'm going to include the tight ends with that as well with Hockenson. So I don't want to make this a super long video because I hate those things. I get most people are probably listening to this while they're driving or whatever it may be. But I do think this is going to be a game that Detroit is going to be able to hang their hat on if they do end up winning. And my prediction for this game is going to be Detroit 37, Minnesota 24. I don't think it's going to be as lopsided as that, but I do think Detroit's going to score late to probably push it open a little bit more. They're going to turn a close game into what, at least on paper, is going to look more like a blowout. We'll see how that goes. The other part of that is the Detroit offense. I do think the offensive line, the way they're playing right now, plus the receiving core being healthy and the running backs getting very healthy, other than, DeAndre Swift's ankle popping up again. But with that being said, I do think Goff's going to have a pretty good game. I think actually the running backs will have a very good game for Detroit. See if that holds up. And the receiving core, if they keep running these timing routes over the middle and on deep outs, I think we've got some real opportunities here. It's not going to be an easy game, but nor should it be an easy game when you got a 10-2 team coming into your house. They're division leaders and one of the NFC favorites to go to the Super Bowl this year. If Detroit can pull this off, it's really a sign we are changing from the same old Lions to the new face Lions. So go ahead and hit me up with your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you got the score predictions to be? You heard mine. You heard some of the reasoning behind it. I'm going to go ahead and say that the running backs are going to amass between all of them over 100 yards, and Goff is going to have close to 300 yards passing. The defense, we'll see what shakes out. But to me, this game is going to come down to the Minnesota offense versus the Detroit defense. I think the other side's kind of wash out, so the game's going to be decided, in my opinion, from those two angles. Let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you're all having a good day. Sorry I couldn't get on the mic yesterday to record this. Hey, life happens. Sometimes we get busy with work. But enjoy your day, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so and leaving a thumbs up. Take care, and we'll see you all tomorrow on another Lions Talk Live.